Hey there, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Humans of Music, a Jaxsta podcast. Each episode I talk to a music creator or industry professional about their life and career, the ups and downs of their journey, and the lessons they've learned along the way. And my guest today is Norwegian artist, songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist, Girl in Red. So Girl in Red is the pseudonym of 22-year-old Norwegian artist Marie Ulven. She came up with the name when she was at a festival looking for her best friend, with whom she was in love at the time. When she spotted her standing in the crowd, her friend was wearing red, so Marie sent her a text saying, "You guessed it, Girl in Red." Since then, Marie has had a relatively rapid rise. Her debut single as Girl in Red, I Wanna Be Your Girlfriend, became something of a viral hit, with the New York Times calling it one of the top tracks of 2018. That year she released her debut EP, Chapter 1, followed by Chapter 2 in 2019, and while that material was a little lo-fi and largely guitar-based, her recently released debut album, If I Could Make It Go Quiet, veers off into a poppier and fuller sound. What hasn't changed though is her confessional and completely open style of lyric writing, which is one of the things that first endeared her to hundreds of thousands of fans around the world. Her forthright accounts of being a young gay woman have led to her being called a gay icon, while the phrase, "Do you listen to Girl in Red?" has even become online code for queer females expressing their sexuality or inquiring as to whether another female is gay. Just as powerful has been Marie's willingness to write about her mental health, an issue which informs much of her songwriting and is a key lyrical thread on her new album. She is the definition of a self-contained artist, writing all her own songs, playing all the instruments, and producing, all of which we talk about in this interview. We also discuss her upbringing in Norway and her path into music, and her reaction when Taylor Swift posted an Instagram story recently calling Girl in Red's debut album spectacular and urging everyone to listen to it. When we caught up, Marie was in Norway and I was in Sydney, and we started by talking about Girl in Red's debut album, If I Could Make It Go Quiet. And I saw an interview with you recently where you were saying you were excited that it was out, but you were also scared. What scared you about the record coming out?
Just like I put so much effort into it. Like I worked for pretty much almost 2 years of working went into that project. And it's like it comes out in one day or like comes out one day and then people are allowed to not like it. And that is scary. Like I started the first demo for that album like the 30th of April and like 1st of May 2019. And then worked on a bunch of demos, got all the ideas, went into the studio for like 12 months and like throughout the entirety of 2020. And then now the past 4 months, I've just been sitting like chained to this chair and just like talking about body and mind to like any person that would want to listen like in the music industry.
Sure.
And then that stuff builds up. Like that stuff makes me so nervous because what if it comes out, nobody likes it? But Taylor Swift liked it, so
that's what I was going to say. When you see Taylor Swift post an Instagram story calling the album spectacular, how do you react to that?
Oh God, I mean, the only appropriate reaction to that is to lay down and cry, and that is exactly what I did for an hour. And I called my mom, and then I was just crying on the phone to my mom, and I was a little bit drunk, so I can't even remember what she said, but it doesn't matter. It was insane.
Is Taylor someone that you, clearly I presume she's someone that you had looked up to?
Yeah, like also like for the past 4 months, every single day in all my interviews, everyone's like, "Who's your inspiration?" I'm like, Taylor Swift. And then I just go on and on and on about folklore and evermore. And I just like, yeah, I talk about Taylor Swift all the time. And yeah. It's really, she's definitely like a really big inspiration for me.
Right. What in particular?
I'm really inspired by her ability to keep making music and like keep putting out incredible albums that are always interesting to me. Like she could have stopped making music such a long time ago if she was doing this for any other reason than her love for music. And I think that's so, it's so admirable for me to listen to her and know that she is totally into this industry and into this life because she just loves making music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I've seen you speak in the past about sometimes feeling a sense of imposter syndrome. So when you see someone like Taylor championing your music, does that ease that feeling?
Maybe a little bit. I don't really know. I've had the imposter syndrome for a little bit, but now that I have like two EPs that kind of make up like an album,
Mm.
and then I have the album that is definitely an album, and then I'm like, yo, Marie, you need to stop talking shit to yourself and stop being like, you don't know how to make music, because I do, and I have all of this music to show for. So I'm getting better at it.
Excellent. So with the album title, If I Could Make It Go Quiet, so I understand that that's a reference to the noise in your head or the noises in your head. And the album kicks off with the song Serotonin, in which you address anxiety and intrusive thoughts like wanting to cut your hands off or jumping in front of a bus. What's it
Yeah.
like putting these thoughts on paper? Does it empower you to identify them and then bring them to light?
It felt really good to get those words down on paper, and like they kind of just like poured out of me. Like I didn't like have to struggle to get them out. They kind of just like, whoa, oh, there it was. That's
Mm,
something I've been dealing with for so long. And it kind of, I don't know what the English word for it is, but it's kind of like when you embrace something so it doesn't become scary anymore.
mm,
Like, I guess there was something a little bit powerful about it, because I was like, here I am, like putting this word into a song that I know I'm going to put out in the world. And there was something kind of like less dangerous about that whole thought then, if that
mm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And because I think what's also really scary about intrusive thoughts is that we don't talk about them, and we live with them usually all alone, like with ourselves, because we feel crazy when we get thoughts like, yeah, I just had a thought of like taking the steering wheel and just like killing my entire family while, driving. And it's
Mm.
like people get those thoughts all the time, but no one talks about them because, you don't want to seem crazy.
Yeah, and you do talk about them, and I guess that's one of the reasons why you've forged such a connection with your fan base. And I think early on, in particular, you had like a really intense relationship with your fans who connected with what you were talking about. I mean, how did that play out? Because clearly, as your fan base gets bigger and bigger, the opportunity to really engage on some of those matters, I presume, just gets smaller and smaller. But in the early days, was there that definite idea of people confiding in you?
Yeah, like in the beginning, people were kind of like DMing me and kind of really opening up to me and telling me their stories and wanting me to help them with everything they had just said. And I tried that for a bit. Like I wanted to help out, and I wanted to be a person that someone could trust and feel like they could say anything to, but that wasn't very good for me. Like that started taking a toll on my own mental health after a while, because I
Mm.
was like, oh my God, this is getting too heavy. Like, I don't even have the emotional capacity to, invest in friendships in real life. Like, how am I going to have the emotional capacity to start helping all these people on a individual basis? But now I feel like I'm in a good place with my fans, and I try to interact with everything that they post, and kind of, when someone makes a great piece of like fan art or anything like that, I always like to comment and really just say that you did an amazing job, and kind of just every now and then also open DMs that are more light than, or like a very, I don't know, personal story. This was a
Yeah.
very long answer. I'm going to stop myself now.
You talked to before about the intrusive thoughts and how they're something that you'd live with for a long time. How old were you when you were conscious of these thoughts?
I started getting intrusive thoughts since I was 12, but I wasn't aware of it as an intrusive thought at that point. I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm crazy. I don't know if I can live this life, if this is what's going to go through my head." I remember it was a really bad time for me. After that, I've just had them like on a regular basis. Sometimes I have more of them, depends on like how bad I am mentally.
Mm.
It wasn't really until like therapy last year, which was when I was like told that you actually don't want to do all these things, but your mind messes up with you and kind of tells you, it gives you these extreme scenarios that you are actually really scared of, and that you kind of like, it's so opposite of who you really are. And that's why it scares you. So, like, like I said, with the driving thing, like that's something I would never do. And that's why it scares me when I have the thought of it, because me thinking I have a thought of it thinks I'm like, oh, is this what I want to do? Like,
Mm.
it's obviously that is very scary. Yeah. So
Yeah.
up until last year, that was 9 years of thinking I was batshit crazy, but I'm not.
I mean, Brew is a really lovely song on the album, but also quite heartbreaking in some ways, in that it's a bit of a, I think, like a bit of a message to your family, and your concerns that perhaps you are being a burden to them with certain mental illness issues. And there's the lyrics in there. I remember you couldn't stop crying. You found me when I thought I was dying. Believe me when I say I tried so hard to change. And there's such a vulnerability to that song. What was it like to write that?
That was so out of like a real life experience that I don't know, like I just felt like I could, like I've never been, obviously I'm like, I could say that I've never been this honest about all these tracks on this album, but like this Rue was like one of the early songs that on this album that I was like really early honest on, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I feel like, because I was laying on the floor in the lobby, and my friend Isaac, he carried me up from the floor in the lobby because I had a panic attack. I was laying on the floor thinking I was gonna die, and that I had like a crazy panic attack. I thought I had blood clots going up to my brain and that I was gonna die. And he carried me out there to the taxi and brought me to the hospital. And that's what that is about. So it's just about like very specific things that has happened, but I think people can somewhat probably relate to it because I think a lot of people have been on the floor crying and
Sure.
thought they were going to die. Yeah.
How did your loved ones react to that song?
My mom thinks it's so sad, and she gets really sad when she hears my songs and kind of how things have been, because obviously I tell my mom everything, but I also don't tell it like this. And there's something just like in this song that is very much like storytelling, kind of like almost a little bit of a country vibe with it, and it's very just like, I don't know, sad. So she was really sad when she heard the song, and she's also really sad when she hears like other songs on the album, because she just doesn't want me to not be okay.
Yeah,
which
of
is
course.
pure. That's what mom should be like.
I think early on in your career, your mum would hear or would listen to your early demos. Is that still the case? Do you still play early versions of your songs to your mum for her feedback?
Yeah, I still play my demos to my mom. But yo, I've been sending her stuff recently, and she probably has a lot on her plate, but she's not responding to my demos. I don't know what that means. I'd be out here, giving my mom shout outs all the time, and I'm like, yo, you're my mom? Yeah, she's actually the most important part of my song process. And then like, here she goes when I've said all of this stuff, and she like, leaves me on read. But yeah, she is really important to me when it comes to making music.
So you grew up in Horton, which is a little town around 30 miles south of Oslo. How would you describe that town to someone who'd never been there?
I would describe it as small, but also very cute. We have a very nice like coastal, or like maybe we have a nice coastline. Maybe that's what it's called. I don't know. But it's water all around the city almost. And yeah, I think anyone who goes there will find something that they like about it.
Okay. And
But
it was
only for a day, because when you're stuck there, it gets boring as hell.
well, I was going to ask if it was a good place to grow up, but it was not particularly stimulating.
Yeah, like it was a great place to grow up because like it's safe, it's quiet. You could just walk out and like get lost as a 3-year-old, which I did, and like not get kidnapped. It's so safe. Like it is really, really safe there. And so like I'm very lucky to have that upbringing. But yes, when I got older and I stopped caring about kind of those things, it did get a little bit, boring and not that very stimulating, especially for
Sure.
me, because I was just like craving something
Yeah.
more.
What were you mentioned being a 3-year-old and going out wandering. I mean, what were you like as a young child?
I definitely had a lot of faith in my sister when she was like, "Hey, want me to walk us to like town and go to the mall?" And then we tried buying like toys with like Monopoly money. That didn't work out. But so I was a scared child, but I was also very funny and very witty. I've always liked to make people laugh. But yeah, I was scared also. I thought I had the most like irrational fears all the time. I probably just had anxiety my entire life without anyone noticing. I just thought I was like, yeah, Marie, she's scared of the wind and she's scared of like a tsunami and this like big small lake here in Norway.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And am I right in thinking your dad was a police officer?
yes, he
What
was.
what kind of line of policing was he in?
He did a little bit of a like he was investigating, but he's a terrible investigator. And then he was like, stopping cars that were like transporting drugs and stuff. And then he got hit by a car while he was on his motorcycle doing he was probably gonna go to work somewhere. And then now he's not a cop anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That was when you were about 12? Is that right?
Yeah, that was the trigger for all my intrusive thoughts.
Wow. So that had a big impact on you.
Yeah, that's what we love to call some good old trauma.
Yeah. And so that was it. That was it for his policing career. That like he had to retire.
Yeah, the police stuff people have kind of tried to give him a new job. So like he does something within the police world, but I don't even know what it is, but it's definitely not normal police officering.
Did you have a strict upbringing, having a policeman as a father?
I mean, I also had divorced parents, so I had a strict upbringing, you know, uh, every other week. But yeah, my dad was like, he always focused on like the stuff that I now, as a young woman, never really understood why parents get so mad about. Like, he was like, you cannot drink, you cannot do all of this before you turn 18, because then I won't buy you your driver's license, which was like, all my friends who had parents like that are now like raging alcoholics, like, or probably not alcoholics, but they just drink like crazy and they all smoke. And my mom, she was like the exact opposite, which is probably why they are divorced, because they had two different ways of living life. And she was very much just like, I don't support you drinking, but I know that you're going to do it. So I want you to call me before anything bad happens. She was always very, very, very sweet.
And what did she do for a living?
My mom had a bunch of different jobs while growing up. She worked in a bookstore, and and with that was like a hybrid of like kids' toys, and I'm not sure if that made sense, but it was a bookstore with toys in it as well as books.
Okay.
And she worked at a bunch of tech companies that I never understood what was, and then she studied. So she just did a bunch of stuff.
Right.
Really.
All right. And then in terms of your musical upbringing, was there much music in either household?
No, there was literally like my dad. He was the worst guy to sit in a car with because he would always play music like at the lowest possible volume. I'd be like, hey, can we put some music on? He was like, yes. And then he would like just take one bar like of like the audio bar. And then he was so fucking quiet. But my mom, she would blast the music in the car, and we would have a great time singing, "Oh, the single ladies, oh, the single ladies."
Was it pop?
Yeah, but I didn't have a lot of music.
Was it pop that you were attracted to?
I was all about pop music. I didn't know anything about indie before I was like 14, and I figured out that I could find my own way.
What was it for? Was it the Smiths? I read the Smiths are a big influence you were around about that time.
Yeah, the Smiths, they were definitely a favorite at that time. And like some songs from David Bowie, and then just like this, I don't know, big pile of indie stuff from 2013 and 2014. I just feel like that was a great time to be an indie artist.
And what about in terms of your other interests back then? I know The Simpsons, you're a big Simpsons fan, but you're also big into fingerboarding. Like what's fingerboarding?
Fingerboarding is like skateboarding with your fingers, but so it's like a tiny skateboard, really, and it's made exactly like a bigger skateboard. So it has like veneer kind of glued together and then like molded, and it has wheels with bearings and like proper trucks with bushings and stuff. So it is like a real skateboard, and you can do anything on a fingerboard that you can do on a skateboard, and probably more because you're not going to die. That was a big interest for me for many, many years. And I'm still interested because I do have a gigantic fingerboard ramp in my living room that I got like 2 months ago.
Wow.
I'm looking.
I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever seen it. I've obviously missed out.
I mean, you have definitely missed out, sir. You should get into that fingerboard world right now.
So at 12, you get given your first guitar by your grandfather. What do you remember of that moment?
I just remember opening it, or like I think I remember I got the box and I was like, "What is this?" And then I was like, because I didn't know what a guitar box looked like. I remember that, and then I remember opening it and seeing it was red and it had an M on the top because it was a Morgan guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like I just thought it was so cool. And then I remember strumming it and it sounded like shit, and I was like, "How do I tune this?" Because for the first few months of playing guitar, I didn't even know how to tune a guitar. So I had to get a tuner given to me. That's pretty much just, and I remember taking a picture and posting it on Instagram. And then I think I tagged Bob Marley, and I have a screenshot of this because it is so hilarious that I tagged Bob Marley.
Why did you tag him?
I don't know. I think like music person, yeah, Bob Marley. Like I don't even know. Like I was not a Bob Marley fan, and that I think this was me before getting into other types of music than just what I heard on the radio. So like, I was like, I didn't even know like who played guitar. So I was like, yeah, this guy probably plays guitar.
Is it true that even then that you sensed that you wanted to be a superstar?
I'm not sure if I sensed it, but I remember like I've always like interviewed myself for like American Idol, but like the Norwegian
Sure.
version, and just like Norwegian talents, like or like America Got Talent type of stuff. I remember I'd always kind of
Yeah.
like pretend that I was participating in those things. So like from a very early age, I always kind of thought about those things. But I don't think like when I got the guitar, I was like, okay, this guitar is going to be the first step to superstardom. Like I never had that in my mind ever, I think.
What did you think? It was just something to do?
Yeah, I honestly don't even know cuz like there wasn't like an artist that I wanted to be. Like I wasn't like I want to be this artist, like I want to have this guitar. Like I just remember like I really wanted to play guitar. And I think I just wanted to be a girl who played guitar. And I liked singing, so maybe I just wanted something to sing over. I wish I had like more of this time documented, like the thoughts I had at this time, but obviously I never thought I'd need them. But
So how long after figuring out how to tune the guitar and strumming with it, like how far after that did you actually write a song?
I think I started quite early, and I have like a notebook. I'm looking at it right now. I have a notebook, and I'm I think it's like maybe 6 months later, maybe. Like very early on, I started writing songs, but in the beginning, I was just playing Taylor Swift from her album Red. I was
Sure.
just covering songs.
Which one was there one? Did you have a favorite or one you particularly
One
nailed?
yeah, that was Begin Again. Shit, you would throw your head back laughing like a little kid. Oh, Taylor. She's had my heart for all these years.
After the break, Marie talks about the rise of Girl in Red and her path to becoming a producer and multi-instrumentalist. Welcome back to Humans of Music and my interview with Marie Ulven. Girl in Red's album, If I Could Make Her Go Quiet, is co-produced by Matthias Tellez with Phineas co-producing the song Serotonin. But up until this point, Marie has always produced Girl in Red's music completely by herself, and we pick up the conversation talking about how she learned to do it. 2014, I think you used your confirmation money to buy a MacBook. And was that with the goal to learning to produce? Did you have that in your mind?
I don't think I had that in mind. I think what I had in mind was looking really cool with one of those laptops with an apple on the back. I think that was like, oh, that's so cool. And having like one of those docks, and because like MacBooks were so popular in Horton, but no one had them because they were really expensive. And I don't know. Also, I was a kid. Maybe people had them. I don't know. But it didn't take long before I was like, oh, there's an app here that's called GarageBand, and like I can do stuff in it. Because I remember to like for like I think it was my 16th birthday or maybe 15th, my dad gave me this Blue Yeti microphone and this Apogee thing that I could record with in GarageBand. But I just didn't understand it. And I was like, this is way too hard. I'm going to keep asking someone else to help me. So I didn't get into recording before like 3 years later after the MacBook purchase.
What changed?
I think I had put out, like I had made 2 EPs in like written in Norwegian, and like I just didn't fuck with them really. Like I was like, I feel so disconnected from this music that I've been working very hard to make, but it still doesn't feel right to me. And I think I was just like, I think also I wanted to make more music. And that process of, going into a studio and working with someone else's time, that sort of slowed things down a lot. And that just, I think there was a frustration there, so that I'd have all these ideas and then I'd lose them all the time because I didn't have anything to help me collect them. And I think I was like, you know what? I have this microphone and this Apogee thing. I can start recording stuff now and start just like getting these ideas down so that I don't lose them.
Mm.
Yeah.
And was it that same thinking that inspired you to not only learn the guitar, but also learn the piano and the bass? And I believe you've learned cello as well. Like, was it that thinking that you could do everything yourself?
I think all the other instruments, and even actually production also, is that I started getting bored of just like when I was playing guitar, I made a song and then it just sounded like a guitar song. And then I was like, this is boring. And then I'd always like go to this like school piano and start playing, and then I'd get kicked out because like school would close. And so I was like, okay, I want to play piano now because I'm bored of the guitar. I'm bored of only hearing my voice over this instrument. And I think after playing piano and guitar for like, I guess up until 2017, I think also what I wanted to do next was to hear all these things together in a place where I hadn't heard it. And I think that also kind of led me to production, because I was bored of piano, bored of guitar. I need something else that can spice this shit up. And that was producing music, because then you can just like mix it all up together and like record all these things and make them not sound like a piano and guitar.
Yeah. And does that all lead you to Girl in Red?
Yeah, I think it was that year that led me to Girl in Red. It was like 2017. Early part of that year, I started messing around and started like working within beats and stuff, and like with beats, and because I didn't know what a metronome was before, and I had to really learn everything from scratch.
Is there anyone helping you, or are you just doing this all yourself?
No, I was just doing it by myself. Like I'd maybe go into a YouTube video every now and then, but I remember like I didn't even like that because it took so long, and I just like I could never really get the help I needed from the YouTube videos. So yeah, like that just didn't work out for me either. So it was just me clicking all the buttons, seeing what it did.
Right. And then in 2018, you upload I Want to Be Your Girlfriend to SoundCloud and YouTube, I believe. And what were you hoping for when you did that?
Well, yeah, so I posted that song on SoundCloud on the 16th of September 2017. But now, because of my label or some shit, I honestly don't even know. It's really frustrating to me because I really like having the dates correct, because I love things being correct when it comes to timing. And the dates kind of got changed because I put the songs out on Spotify in March 2018. So now it says March 2018 on my SoundCloud as well.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, I put that music out in 2017, and then nothing happened for like a few months. And then I remember like on the 4th of January 2018, I got a message from someone saying that my music was so good, and like I Want to Be Your Girlfriend. I was like, yo, where did you even find this? Like I've never gotten a message like this before. And then she was like, yeah, it's this YouTube channel called The Worst Taste that posted about it. And then I was like, whoa, okay. I checked it out and I was like, oh my God, I love this account. Like I'm even subscribed to this account.
Yeah.
And then there was this other account that also had reposted the song. That one went a lot more viral than the Worst Taste one, the first one I saw. Yeah, that's when stuff happened. And that's why I also ended up putting the songs out, because I was like, I didn't think anyone would want to listen to that music, but then people wanted to.
So when you say you didn't think anyone would want to listen to that music, why did you put it out in the first place? Just for yourself?
No, I definitely put it out because I wanted people to listen. But like I didn't put it out on Spotify or anything, because I was like, yeah, this music doesn't have a place. But I put it out on my SoundCloud because that felt so much more safe and less official
Mm.
and less like I take this very seriously.
So how excited were you then when you started getting this, it started taking off?
So excited. I was sitting in class just refreshing all these YouTube videos that I reposted my songs. And I was just like recording even more music so that I could sort of like have something to follow up with. And I was like, I think I have a moment now. Like I remember like so early on, I thought I had a moment and I thought something was happening and I could feel it. I remember on my birthday, February 16th. So that was like a month later, I put out Summer Depression, which is also one of my biggest songs up
Yeah.
to date. And I remember that song got like 4,000 streams in 3 days. And I was like, that is more than I Want to Be Your Girlfriend got in like 5 months. And I was like, something is happening. And then, I remember like this Norwegian radio picked it up and I was like, oh, okay, things are definitely happening. And then I put all those 3 songs that I made within the span of that first month, pretty much I put them on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I also made a song that was called Say Anything.
And what's happening at school? Like, what are your friends thinking? What do you think? Does this just completely take your mind off schoolwork? This has changed
Yeah.
everything?
My mind was definitely taken off. Like I did not think about school. And I also remember I was talking about this all the time. And my friend, he was like so tired of it. And like thinking back, I was like we're still best friends. Like he is probably my closest friend, but I want to tell him that was a fucking douchey thing to be like, Marie is like literally having the moment she's been working for so long. And now I'm just going to be like, stop talking about this same thing all the time. I was like, bitch, give me some space to fucking talk about this shit. I don't know. But I remember it was just like insane.
Yeah. And you taking meetings with labels in high school while you were still in high school? Is that right?
Yeah. I was talking to a bunch of different labels, Columbia, Interscope, a bunch of indie labels, a bunch of random people that I never really understood. Like, why were we talking? Like, because I didn't even think at that point like anyone would want to be a manager because I didn't know what a manager was. And I literally had no foot in the music industry whatsoever. So all these people talking to me and like people being like, hey, want to meet up for a cup of coffee? I was like, who are you? Like, you like my music and we want to drink coffee. And like, my brain didn't go to like, oh, we want to talk about your music. That didn't like strike my mind at all.
Is anyone guiding you at this point? Is anyone that you can talk to about it?
No, no one is guiding me other than my grandpa being like, don't make a mistake. And I was like, thanks for that advice. That is terrible advice. But yeah, so I was keeping my cards very much close to my chest because I didn't want to let anyone in, like too much in. And also I didn't want to give anyone false hope. I met a bunch of weird dudes as well that were like super disappointed when I started working with other people. Then I'm like so happy that I went with my gut and did not work with those guys. Like it's so people need to be careful, man, when they start getting a little bit momentum.
Where do you think you got that instinct from? Like to go with your gut?
Like I've always had a great gut, and you have to have a good gut feeling if you're going to make music as well, because you got to go with what you like and what you don't like.
And then you mentioned the first tour of the US. So obviously you released Chapter 1, Chapter 2 EPs and head to the US. And on the song Horny Lovesick Mess off the new record, you sing about being on a bus for a month straight. And there's that other lyric, down at Times Square in the rain, there's a billboard with my face. It's so weird how things have changed. Think about it every day. What is happening in your life at this point, at the point of releasing those EPs and going on the road in the States? Is it all just swirling around you? How do you make sense of everything that's happening?
I don't think I made sense of it, like really, because 2019 was like a very different year than 2018 because I was just finishing high school, just moving to Oslo and kind of like trying to get settled. But then like before I even got settled in Oslo, I was like on my way to the United States to go on like a 5-week tour. And I can't, like, that time was such a weird time. I went on 4 tours that year and then just did a bunch of festivals. And I don't think I was able to take it all in. It was just so much happening for me. And I remember like especially like the Times Square thing was just like the biggest moment of my life when I was like in Times Square. I'd just been in Philadelphia, did some promo there, and got back to New York. And my manager's just like, he just drove me down to Times Square. And I was like, oh my God, like what is happening right now? And like I didn't say that because I didn't want him to say anything. But yeah, and then I stood there in the rain waiting for 15 minutes to see my face on the billboard. And it was such a great moment. Oh my God.
At what point do you reckon you, I guess, learned to come to terms with all this sort of stuff and to take it in and to appreciate it and to not get freaked out by it?
I don't think I did. I don't think I took any of that in. And it honestly wasn't like until like maybe 2 months ago I started taking this stuff in. Like that sounds so weird, but it really has taken me a long time to sort of understand what the hell is going on
Mm.
with this project and this life, and kind of like now people perceive me as this like artist, and like I'm so not used to that. I'm like, I just see myself as Marie and like the way I've sort of always seen myself. But like I got stopped like 4 times yesterday, and then like I saw I that one girl I met, she made a TikTok about it, and she was like, I'm like, I don't even know. I get choked up thinking about it. It's just insane, dude. Like, it's so hard to grasp. But
Yeah.
I also just feel like it's just starting out for me. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I mean, when you think about, we talked about earlier about intrusive thoughts, and I think you've been diagnosed with OCD and general anxiety disorder, and the road can be a very disorientating place at the best of times. But how do you take care of yourself and those conditions when you're under those circumstances?
On tour,
Yeah.
I don't think I have taken care of myself. And that is kind of this time that I have now is a time that I want to spend figuring that out. Because I remember I gained a lot of weight on tour. I was super anxious all the time. I couldn't sleep. I was just having incredible like muscle pain and my shoulders and my back and my legs. It really took a toll on my body and my mental health as well. So I want to spend this time work on my physique and also make sure that I'm as strong as possible like mentally, because
Mm.
you got to be an athlete, dude, if you want to go on tour and if you want to be that type of artist, you got to be an athlete.
And that's presumably very much in your, well, hopefully in the near future, once COVID settles down, you've got live dates to do.
I know a lot of stuff that I'm going to do. Yes. So therefore I am a little bit intimidated about it, like of seeing all those stuff I'm going to do, but I'm just trying to think about like what can I do to make this the best as possible.
Yeah, nice. What happens when other people take Girl in Red and it just becomes something to them that you couldn't have imagined? When you think about just Girl in Red, for example, becoming code online for a girl talking to another girl and asking if they're gay. I mean, that's become something completely different to you just making music. That becomes a cultural kind of phenomenon. How do you deal with it when these things just happen and you don't have any control of it and you've had nothing to do with it?
I think it's really cool when it's the fun stuff, but
Mm.
then it's kind of scary when it's like not the fun stuff and people start thinking stuff about you that just like genuinely isn't true, but they read it somewhere, so therefore they think it's true. So anything that's like good that comes out of this project that kind of builds anything that's good. I just said good a lot, but I don't know. I just want things to be good, I guess. Um, yeah, but it is weird because like I kind of feel like I'm not. Well, I still feel like I'm my own person, but to some point, like I'm also kind of like, for me, like Girl in Red has just been like, yeah, that's my project. That's like something I do, but it's like it's becoming like bigger and also like less mine in a way,
Mm.
which I think is a gradual sort of progression probably,
Yeah.
but it is kind of weird.
And when you speak using the word progression, when you think about If I Could Make It Go Quiet and how it compares to some of your earlier work and how all of your early work was you doing everything and
Yeah.
writing and producing, etc. But then with If I Could Make It Go Quiet, the Serotonin with being a co-write with Phineas and working with Matthias Tellez on as a producer on the rest of the album. Is that something that you feel you want to do more of in the future?
Well, he was just a co-prod. I actually wrote the song by myself, but
Right.
uh,
Phineas, that
uh,
is?
yeah, Phineas, yeah,
Yeah,
he co-produced that song, and
gotcha.
Matthias also co-produced the album with me.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, I feel so powerful being able to let people in and still be like, we're gonna do it my way, and
Mm.
like, I don't even know what the future is gonna bring when it comes to like working with other people, but I know that I learned so much from working with Matthias, and like my demos now sound like, I don't know, so much better than what my demos did in like 2019. And I just grown a lot. So there's something vulnerable about letting other people into the process, but it's also extremely powerful if you use it to make your music sound better, and
Absolutely.
your music to get better and bigger. And which is what I feel like I've done here, because the songs, they all came from me. Made all the demos and made all the core ideas, and I wrote all the lyrics, and I made all the top lines, and I made all the melodies and everything, but still being able to let someone in there and kind of tweak the sound to make it even like poppier or kind of like crisper or whatever. It's yeah, I don't even know, but I just want to progress. I want to be the best musician I can be.
And it was interesting when you said, it's good to let these people in, but still have that idea of, we're going to do it my way. Where did that confidence or that just self-belief that you know what is right come in? Because presumably the bigger and more popular you get, the more the outside voices start wanting to try to interfere.
I think I have that strong voice now because of taking all the time that I needed to become a producer and knowing my role in a studio, and knowing like, instead of, in 2018 I started getting some traction to my songs. Instead of then being like, okay, guess I got to go into a studio, I was like, you know what? This momentum is really cool, and I'm going to use it for me to learn and progress as a musician and keep making music and keep producing and keep writing stuff. And then I made 2 EPs, and then I was like, okay, I have this is out. And obviously I was making a lot of stuff behind the scenes as well. And then I took even more time to just grow. And I think that's where I kind of got that sense of like, we're going to do it my way, and I fully believe we're going to do it this way, and it's the best way because it's the best way for my music.
Mm.
But I'm not going to be like that in the studio if I'm working with someone else and for another artist. I would never be like, we're going to do it my way, because then again, it's like, it's the artist voice that is the most important one. But yeah, I just don't think I would be this confident if it wasn't for the fact that I've just made a shit ton of music.
Absolutely. Just the last couple of things before we finish up. We spoke earlier about Taylor Swift saying wonderful things about the record, and that seeing that billboard in New York. Are there any other moments which have just been complete sort of pinch me moments where you've just gone, wow, I cannot believe this is happening?
I honestly feel like the most pinch me moment was the Taylor Swift moment. Like, that was more insane than Times Square, because
Right.
like I've been in Times Square a few times now on a billboard. Obviously, I was just there one time, and that was like the most insane one. But now, just like knowing that my music, like, and my words have been into Taylor Swift's head, and like she has processed it, to me is like insane. Like if we go beyond this like story that she posted, and it's just the fact that she actually likes it, to me it's
Mm.
just like mind blowing. But yeah, and also maybe just the fact that I've released an album, to me is a fucking pinch me moment. That I was able to pull through and release something that I'm so proud of makes me so happy. Like, I don't even know. As a 16-year-old, I had in my Instagram bio that I was making an album. 6 years later, I had one. I was definitely not making an album at 16. I don't know who I was fooling at that point. Maybe myself, but yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and just the fact that I'm living off music. I just want to, I just never want to wake up from this.
Yeah, nice one. And very lastly, so Jaxsta is all about giving credit where credit is due. Is there anyone that you would like to give credit to for helping you get where you are today?
Oh, obviously, well, we already talked about my mom. So then I would want to say my band, really. I don't feel like I talk about my band as much, but I love them, and I wouldn't have been here where I am today if it wasn't for them
playing with me for the past 3 years and sticking out with me and being and helping me throughout all this crazy stuff I endure on tour. Honestly, my bandmates Martin, Erlend, Brew, Henrik, and we have a new one. His name is Viljar. We haven't been on tour yet, but Viljar, you guys are awesome.
Nice one. All right, Marie, that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rod. It was great talking to you. You have a really good voice.
And that's it for another episode of Humans of Music. Big thanks to Marie for her time, and thank you for listening. This episode was mixed by Lachlan Mitchell from Parliament Studios in Annandale, and the incidental music and theme song were written and performed by Sam Lockwood. Please remember to subscribe to the Humans of Music podcast so you never miss an episode, or even better, share it amongst your friends and rate and review it. And remember, next time you need to know who wrote a song, who produced a song, who engineered it, who played on it, who sang on it, who did anything on it, head to Jaxsta.com for all your official music credit information. Until the next episode of Humans of Music, I'm Rod Yates. Thanks for listening.